On a sunny Wednesday afternoon in October 2011, the peaceful coastal community of Seal Beach, California, would become the scene of Orange County's deadliest mass shooting. The quiet streets of this close-knit beach town, known for its quaint Main Street and historic wooden pier, would forever be marked by an act of violence that left 8 people dead and 1 critically wounded. At the center of this tragedy was Scott Evans DeCry, a man whose personal demons and bitter custody battle would explode into an unthinkable rampage. October 12, 2011, began like any other day at Salon Meritage, a popular hair salon nestled in a small shopping center on Pacific Coast Highway. The salon buzzed with the familiar sounds of hairdryers, friendly conversation, and the gentle music that typically filled the space. None of the people inside, stylists, customers, and friends who had gathered there, could have imagined they were about to become victims of one of the most horrific mass shootings in Orange County history. Scott DeCry, a 41-year-old former tugboat operator, arrived at the salon wearing a bulletproof vest and armed with 3 handguns. His primary target was his ex-wife, Michelle Fournier, a stylist at the salon with whom he had been engaged in a vicious custody battle over their 8-year-old son. The tensions between them had been escalating for years, with DeCry's behavior becoming increasingly erratic and threatening. At 1:21 p.m., DeCry entered the salon with deadly purpose. According to witnesses and police reports, he immediately opened fire, first shooting Randy Lee Fannin, the salon's owner, who allegedly tried to intervene. He then turned his attention to his ex-wife, Michelle Fournier, shooting her multiple times at point-blank range. What followed was a methodical execution of anyone within his sight. The scene inside the salon was chaos and terror. Customers and employees tried desperately to hide or escape, but DeCry moved through the space with calculated precision. Among his victims was Christy Lynn Wilson, Fournier's friend and colleague, who had testified against DeCry in the custody hearings. Victoria Buzzo, another stylist, was killed as she tried to flee. Laura Webb-Elodie, who was working on a client's hair, was shot dead along with her customer, Michelle Fast. Outside the salon, the violence continued. DeCry spotted David Couette sitting in his car in the parking lot and shot him through the window, apparently believing he might be a threat. In total, 8 people lost their lives that day, and 1 person, Hattie Stretz, was critically wounded but survived. She would later become a crucial witness in the case against DeCry. The police response was swift. Within minutes of the first 911 calls, Seal Beach police officers had surrounded the area. They found DeCry driving away from the scene and arrested him without incident, just a few blocks from the salon. When taken into custody, he allegedly told officers, "I know what I did." Police found multiple weapons and ammunition in his vehicle, evidence of his preparation for the massacre. The background to this tragedy revealed a troubled history. DeCry had been a tugboat operator until a serious accident in 2007 left him with severe physical injuries and post-traumatic stress disorder. His marriage to Michelle Fournier had been marked by violence and threats, leading to their divorce in 2007. The custody battle over their son had become increasingly bitter, with DeCry seeking full custody despite evidence of his unstable behavior. Just the day before the shooting, DeCry and Fournier had appeared in court for another custody hearing. Fournier had opposed his attempt to gain more control over their son's upbringing, particularly regarding his education and medical care. Friends would later testify that she had expressed fear of DeCry's growing obsession and erratic behavior. The impact on the Seal Beach community was devastating. The small town of roughly 24,000 residents had not seen a single murder in 4 years prior to this incident. The salon had been a gathering place, a center of community life where people came not just for haircuts but for friendship and conversation. The loss of 8 beloved community members sent shockwaves through the town that would be felt for years to come. The legal proceedings that followed would add another layer of complexity to the tragedy. While DeCry's guilt was never in question, he had been caught red-handed and confessed to the killings. The case would become entangled in a larger scandal involving the Orange County District Attorney's Office and the Sheriff's Department's use of jailhouse informants. During the pretrial phase, it was discovered that prosecutors and law enforcement had been operating a secret informant program in the county jails, using inmates to elicit confessions from defendants who were represented by attorneys a practice that violated their constitutional rights. This revelation would lead to years of legal battles and eventually affect the outcome of Decry's case. The scandal grew as more details emerged about the widespread use of informants and the systematic concealment of evidence by prosecutors. The case became a symbol of prosecutorial misconduct and led to numerous convictions being overturned in Orange County. The fallout would eventually force the district attorney's office to drop their pursuit of the death penalty against Decry. In September 2017, nearly 6 years after the shooting, Decry was sentenced to 8 consecutive life terms in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 232 years to life for attempted murder and firearms enhancements. The sentencing hearing was emotional, with survivors and family members of the victims giving powerful impact statements about their loss and grief. Paul Wilson, husband of victim Christy Wilson, spoke of the void left in his life and his struggle to understand such senseless violence. Paul Coet, son of victim David Coet, described the pain of losing his father who had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Each statement painted a picture of the ripple effects of Decry's actions, how one man's rage had torn apart countless lives. The case led to significant changes in Orange County's legal system. The informant scandal resulted in reforms in both the district attorney's office and the sheriff's department. New policies were implemented regarding the use of informants, and greater oversight was established to prevent future misconduct. The case also sparked a broader discussion about the death penalty in California and the role of prosecutorial accountability. The Seal Beach community worked to heal through various memorials and support initiatives. The site of the former Saloon Meritage was eventually renovated and reopened under a new name, though a memorial plaque remains to honor the victims. The city established an annual day of remembrance, and scholarships were created in the names of several victims. The tragedy also led to increased awareness about domestic violence and the dangers of escalating custody disputes. Family court procedures were reviewed and enhanced to better identify potentially dangerous situations. Mental health professionals pointed to the case as an example of how untreated mental illness, combined with access to firearms and personal grievances, can lead to catastrophic outcomes. Today, Scott Decry remains incarcerated at a California state prison, where he will spend the rest of his life. The wounds he inflicted on the Seal Beach community continue to heal, though the scars remain. The victims Randy Lee Fannin, Michelle Fournier, Christy Lynn Wilson, Victoria Buzzo, Laura Webb Elodie, Michelle Fast, Lucia Bernice Condes, and David Coet are remembered not for how they died, but for the lives they lived and the people they touched. The Seal Beach Massacre stands as one of California's most tragic mass shootings, a reminder of the devastating impact of domestic violence and mental illness when combined with easy access to firearms. It also serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of maintaining integrity in the criminal justice system, as the case's complex legal aftermath showed how pursuit of justice can be compromised by misconduct. The legacy of this tragedy continues to influence discussions about gun control, domestic violence prevention, and mental health treatment. While nothing can undo the events of that October afternoon, the lessons learned from this case have led to meaningful changes in how the legal system handles both domestic disputes and criminal prosecutions. For the people of Seal Beach, the memory of October 12, 2011, remains vivid. The small beach community that prided itself on its safety and close-knit nature was forever changed, but not broken. The strength shown by survivors, victims' families, and community members in the face of such horror demonstrates the resilience of the human spirit, even in the darkest of times. As years pass, the story of the Seal Beach Massacre serves as both a memorial to those lost and a sobering reminder of the importance of addressing mental health issues, domestic violence, and the need for vigilance in our justice system. The 8 lives lost that day continue to inspire efforts to prevent similar tragedies and to ensure that justice, when served, is both swift and fair. Behind the walls of California State Prison, Scott Decry's life took on a different rhythm. Sources familiar with his incarceration report that he remains largely isolated from other inmates, both for his own protection and due to the notoriety of his crimes. Prison records indicate that he spends most of his time in his cell, occasionally participating in mandatory programs, but generally avoiding interaction with others. The magnitude of his actions appears to have settled heavily on him during his imprisonment. Prison staff have noted his withdrawn demeanor, though they maintain strict professional boundaries given the nature of his crimes. Mental health professionals who have evaluated him continue to assess the complex intersection of his PTSD, from the tugboat accident, his personality disorders, and the rage that drove him to commit mass murder. The reverberations of the Decry case continued to influence Orange County's legal system long after his sentencing. The informant scandal, dubbed the snitch tank by local media, led to a complete overhaul of how the district attorney's office handles criminal cases. New protocols were established for documenting and disclosing informant interactions, and regular audits were implemented to ensure compliance with constitutional requirements. The case became required study material for law students and legal professionals across California, serving as a cautionary tale about the dangers of prosecutorial overreach and the importance of ethical conduct in pursuing justice. Several key reforms were implemented. The establishment of an independent review board to oversee informant use mandatory training programs for prosecutors on Brady violations and disclosure requirements enhanced documentation procedures for all witness interactions, regular external audits of high-profile cases. The Seal Beach community's journey toward healing revealed both resilience and lasting trauma. The shopping center where Salon Meritage once stood underwent several transformations, each carefully considered to balance remembrance with renewal. The new business that eventually occupied the space incorporated subtle design elements to honor the victims while creating its own identity. Annual remembrance ceremonies evolved from somber gatherings to celebrations of life, with community members sharing stories about the victims and their ongoing impact on the town. The scholarship funds established in their names have helped dozens of local students pursue higher education, creating a legacy of hope from tragedy. In the years following the massacre, several family members of victims became outspoken advocates for mental health awareness and domestic violence prevention. They worked with local organizations to develop early intervention programs and improve communication between family courts and mental health professionals. The case sparked important discussions about how to better identify and address warning signs in high-conflict custody cases. Family courts across California began implementing enhanced screening procedures and requiring additional mental health evaluations in cases involving allegations of threatening behavior or mental instability. The impact of the Seal Beach massacre extended far beyond Orange County. The case influenced policy discussions and legal reforms across the country, particularly in areas dealing with custody dispute protocols, mental health screening in family court proceedings, firearms restrictions for individuals involved in high-conflict custody battles, reform of prosecutorial practices and oversight. Law enforcement agencies nationwide studied the response to the shooting, incorporating lessons learned into their active shooter training protocols. The swift response of Seal Beach Police became a model for other small departments dealing with major incidents. Today, the Seal Beach massacre stands as a watershed moment in Orange County history, marking both a tragic loss of life and the beginning of significant institutional changes. The case continues to influence. Attorneys and judges regularly reference the case when discussing prosecutorial ethics and the importance of constitutional protections. Community mental health providers have expanded their services for high-conflict divorce cases and developed specialized programs for individuals with PTSD. Police departments have enhanced their protocols for responding to domestic violence calls and identifying potentially escalating situations. The tragedy sparked ongoing discussions about the importance of reporting concerning behavior and supporting individuals in crisis. Each of the 8 victims left behind a unique legacy that continues to shape their community. Randy Lee Fannon's dedication to his customers and employees inspired a mentorship program for young entrepreneurs. Michelle Fournier's story led to improved protective services for parents in high-conflict custody disputes. Christy Lynn Wilson's advocacy for friends in need inspired a community support network for domestic violence survivors. Victoria Buzzo's creativity and warmth are remembered through an annual art scholarship. Laura Webb Elodie's passion for her craft led to a vocational training program for aspiring beauticians. Michelle Fast's commitment to family inspired a parenting support group for divorced families. Lucia Bernice Condis's love of community service led to an annual volunteer recognition program. David Coet's random involvement in the tragedy sparked initiatives to support innocent bystanders affected by violence. As Seal Beach approaches another anniversary of the tragedy, the community continues to grapple with its legacy. The town has grown stronger through its shared grief, developing support systems and community bonds that serve as a model for other communities facing similar tragedies. The case remains a powerful reminder of the importance of addressing mental health issues, the potential dangers of high-conflict custody disputes, and the critical need for integrity in the justice system. While the pain of loss never fully fades, the community's response to tragedy demonstrates how healing is possible through unity, remembrance, and dedication to positive change. For those who lost loved ones that October day, the journey continues. Their advocacy, strength, and determination to create meaning from tragedy ensure that their loved ones' deaths were not in vain. The story of the Seal Beach Massacre, while rooted in darkness, has become a catalyst for light-inspiring change, reform, and a renewed commitment to preventing similar tragedies in the future.